Hi, this is Andrew from LaptopReviews.com, and I have here with me today the Apple MacBook Air 13-inch on the left side, and then the Sony VAIO S13 here on the right side, also a 13-inch laptop. Now, these are fairly similar laptops. Obviously, they both have 13-inch screens. They also both have the latest generation of Intel Core i5 and i7 processors. And they're both fairly, well, the MacBook Air is very thin and light, whereas the VAIO S13 is fairly thin and light. Let's just close these down so you can get kind of a comparison of how thin they are. So the MacBook Air is under 0.7 inches thick, whereas the VAIO S13 is just under an inch thick. So the MacBook Air is significantly thinner. However, the VAIO S13 is thinner than the average laptop, so it's fairly thin and light. And as far as weight goes, it's around 3.5, 3.6 pounds, whereas the MacBook Air is around 3 pounds. So it's certainly lighter, but here's the difference. The MacBook Air costs $1199 starting out, whereas the VAIO S13 starts at around $800 starting out. So it's much cheaper, so you kind of get more bang for the buck if you're looking at the VAIO S13. So we're just going to compare and contrast some of the features on both these laptops here today. So if you're trying to decide between the two, you might have a better idea of what might fit your needs. I mentioned the weight already, and the Apple MacBook Air is lighter than the VAIO S13, but I always like to put it on a scale just so we can get a true reading and see how they are right next to each other. So here's the MacBook Air. It's 2 pounds, 15.3 ounces. So real close to the 2.9 pound mark there. Remember, 16 ounces in a pound. Here we go with the VAIO S13. And there you have it, 3 pounds, 13 ounces. So around 3.75 pounds, give or take. So it's certainly heavier, but there are some benefits to the VAIO S13, so we'll take a look at some of those later. Here I've got the MacBook Air stacked on top of the VAIO S13, and we're just going to take a look at the ports on each side. So the MacBook Air here on top has the power jack, or the MagSafe power jack here, the USB 3.0 port next to it, and then a headphone jack right here. The VAIO S13 has the optical drive here, and a little hard to see there, but there's also a headphone and microphone port here at the back. We rotate around to the front side. There are no ports on either of these laptops. So now on the right side here is really where all the ports are for the VAIO S13. So we'll do that first. So from front to back here, the HD Duo Magic Gate slot reader is here. Then we have an SD card reader here. Then a VGA monitor out, HDMI, 2 USB 3.0 ports, then a charged USB 2.0 port, and then an Ethernet jack here at the back. And then is gigabit Ethernet. The MacBook Air on top, we have the SD card reader, USB 3.0, and then Thunderbolt here at the back. And then we rotate around to the back side. Neither laptop has any port there. It's just the hinge. Let's just talk about the build quality a little bit. The VAIO S has a magnesium alloy casing, so it's very rigid. There's no real flex to it. And it also is pretty scratch resistant. So, I mean, obviously my fingernail's not going to scratch much, but if you took a rock to it or a piece of, say, metal from your watch wristband, it's likely not going to cause any scratching. It does pick up fingerprints to a degree. You might be able to see that better on the lid. Not terrible, but you might want to keep a microfiber cloth on hand just to wipe it down. The lid is also fairly solid. You're not going to see any ripples on the screen if you push on the back there. So the VAIO S13 is a well-built premium notebook. The MacBook Air is well known to be aluminum, and it's very rigid and solid. Uses unibody design, so that it's kind of got an exoskeleton, very well supported there. The one downside to the MacBook Air that I found is that the case is kind of prone to scratching. So if you take a metal against it, it could possibly scratch it. Now this is a new MacBook Air, the 2012 edition, so it's not too used and doesn't have any scratches to show as of yet. But a MacBook Air I had that was a couple years old did really start to show a few scratches after some time. Yeah, so you just got to be a little careful with it. Put it in a sleeve, and it won't be a problem. But on the whole, both these laptops are well built and should certainly last you 2 to 3 years at least, and if you treat them well, much longer. The keyboards on both of these models are chiclet style keyboards, meaning the keys are separated island style. They both have 6 rows, and they both have oversized touchpads. The MacBook Air is slightly better. It's well known in the industry as being one of the best there is out there. And the VAIO S13 is not bad itself. It's certainly got an oversized touchpad, and it's a click pad, so you can click anywhere to register a click, left click. You have to push in the lower right for right click. Same deal with the MacBook Air. Push anywhere for click, and if you register your click in the lower right side, it's a right click. Now they both have backlit keyboards as well, so I'll demonstrate that by turning off the lights here. And there we go, and there you can see both have an ambient light sensor, so they're intelligent and know that when the light dims enough in the room to enable the backlight keyboard so you can see the keys better. That's a really nice feature. As you can tell, it makes typing in the dark much easier. I mentioned that the VAIO S13 had some advantages over the Apple MacBook Air. One of those is the fact that it is upgradable and you can change the battery. If we look at the bottom of the VAIO S13 here, where I removed the panel, you can see you can access the hard drive, you can access the battery, and you can access the RAM slot. So you can upgrade RAM, you can upgrade the hard drive, and you can replace the battery if it ever wears out. You also get a docking station connector here so that you can easily expand the number of ports you have. On the MacBook Air, meanwhile, it is just like any other Ultrabook. It's got a sealed bottom, so you can't access or upgrade anything. So, whatever you configure at the time of purchase is what you're going to have for the next few years of using it. So that is an advantage of the VAIO S13. While it is thicker and heavier, it does have the ability to give you the potential to make upgrades to it. Now the VAIO S13 I have has a 1366 by 768 resolution screen, whereas the Apple MacBook Air has a 1440 by 900 resolution screen. So the MacBook Air does have a higher resolution, which would thereby fit more stuff on the screen, and text would be somewhat smaller, though not much. You can get the VAIO S13 in a higher resolution 1600 by 900 resolution screen. That is a premium upgrade and costs extra. So what I have is just the standard model here that you see. I just wanted to go ahead and kind of compare and contrast the viewing angles. So right now I have them perpendicular. I'm going to push the MacBook Air screen all the way back, and you'll see that it's a glossy screen, so it's reflecting the light on the ceiling there. Now I'm going to push back the VAIO S13 screen, and it's a matte screen, so it's not reflecting the light as much. Now you can see here that neither of the laptops the color is holding, but if I turn off the light to reduce that glare, you should see that the MacBook Air has the slightly better viewing angles, and the color holds up better. So there you can see it. The MacBook Air screen is brighter and has a little bit better viewing angle here. So if I tilt them forward, you're going to see again that the MacBook Air color should hold up a little better here with the forward angle viewing. And yeah, that is the case. So the MacBook Air screen viewing angles are better and has a slightly higher quality panel because the colors hold up from different viewing angles a lot better than the VAIO S13. But again, I just have the standard screen in the VAIO S13, so I can't really speak for the 1600 by 900 resolution upgrade. But from what I understand, it's quite similar in terms of viewing angles. So the MacBook Air would win in the viewing angle department. But as far as resolution, if you wanted the higher resolution VAIO S13, the 1600 by 900, you can get a slightly higher resolution on the VAIO S. In regards to the performance, the VAIO S13 I have also has the advantage over the Apple MacBook Air here. Now they both have the latest Intel Core i5 or Core i7 processors, but the MacBook Air has an undervolted version of that processor, whereas the VAIO S13 is able to equip the standard voltage, so it's going to have a faster processor. You can also get an NVIDIA 640M graphics card in the S13. I do not have that, I just have the regular Intel HD 4000 graphics, but if you wanted a portable gaming machine, the VAIO S13 with the NVIDIA 640M, say a Core i5 or Core i7 processor would be a great option. The MacBook Air is a good performer for all basic tasks, especially just like web browsing or productivity, editing video, but it does not offer dedicated graphics like the VAIO S13, and it does not have the standard voltage processor either. Also, with the VAIO S13, you can upgrade to 12 GB of RAM. The MacBook Air tops out at 8 GB, so it's going to be more expensive to do that as well, since you cannot upgrade aftermarket. Another thing to mention is the fact that you can upgrade to an SSD in the VAIO S13. The MacBook Air comes with that standard. The VAIO S13, you are probably better off just getting it with a hard drive and then upgrading aftermarket, since it'll be slightly cheaper to do that. So even though it's a standard hard drive in the VAIO S13 that you get, you can upgrade to an SSD that would really help boost performance. The MacBook Air, as I said, comes with an SSD standard. That really helps performances in regards to boot up time or loading applications. So bottom line, if you tricked both of these out to the high end, the VAIO S13 would be the better performer.